The teachings of Rabbi Ephraim Sprecher, Dean of Students at Diaspora Yeshiva on Mount Zion, Jerusalem.
If you turn to Bereshis 44, Pasuk Lamed Bet, Yehuda's pleading with Tutankhamen to spare Binyamin. He doesn't know. He says, Ki avdecha orev et anar. Your servant is a guarantor for the boy, me'im avi. So therefore, you have to let Binyamin go and I'll take his place. Right? Ki avdecha orev et anar me'im avi. So what does that mean? Arevut, the whole Jewish religion is based on this principle. Arev. Arev in Hebrew, Arav. Kos arevim zeh lezeh. All Jews are responsible and guarantee one for the other. And this is why Yehuda said it. Levi didn't say it. Reuven didn't say it. Dan Naphtali said, who said it? Yehuda. Therefore, we're all called Yehudim. Moshe, why are you called Yehudim? Because to be Yehudi means to be an Arav for a fellow Jew. Yehuda gave his name to the Jewish religion and to the Jewish people because what it means to be a Jew is to be an Arav. How would you say that in English? Guarantor, responsible, one for another. Me'im avi, from my father. Who's my father? Who's my father? That's a simple level, but the deeper level, all Jews are a guarantor one for the other from my father, Daniel, my father in heaven. And on this, and therefore it's Yehuda who said it, not Naphtali, Gad, Asher, Reuven, and Shimon, because he demonstrated what it means to be a Yehuda. Is a Yehuda means that we are a guarantor responsible one Jew for the other. And therefore there are many halachas based on this. For instance, I made Kiddush. Now, Maimonides tells us someone makes a bracha levatala, he transgresses one of the 10 commandments. Which one? Lo yisis Hashem lakecha lashav. Do not take God's name in vain. It's a very serious sin. It's one of the 10 commandments. Someone makes a blessing in vain, he transgresses one of the 10 commandments. So what right do I have to, when I make Havdalah and Kiddush for myself, I can go to 100 other Jews, 100 different places, and keep making the bracha again and again and again. Why is that not a bracha l'Torah? Why am I not taking God's name in vain? I made a bracha on the shofar on the Megillah. And I can go from house to house, hospital to hospital, keep making the bracha again on the Megillah, on the shofar, Kiddush, Havdalah. Why am I not guilty of taking God's name in vain, Alfie? Why? This pasuk, Orav. Orav means we're all connected. We're all a part of each other. Me'im avi, because we all come from what? The same Father in heaven. And also the same physical father, Yaakov. What a powerful verse. We are all guaranteed and responsible for each other because we share the same Father, not just biologically, Yaakov, but HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And therefore, the halacha is that you can keep making brachas again for other Jews that didn't hear Kiddush, Havdalah, or Mikra Megillah, or Shofar. Because if there's one Jew out there that didn't hear Megillah, Kiddush, or Havdalah, even though I did, then Moshe, a part of me, didn't hear Kiddush Havdalah. Shall I repeat that? If there's one Jew out there in the world that didn't hear Kiddush Havdalah or Shofar or Megillah, then a part of me didn't hear Shofar, Megillah, Hallel, or Havdalah or Kiddush. That's what Yehuda's teaching me. Ki avdecha orev et anar. We're all a piece of each other because we're all a piece of the rock. Well, chelik elahai mimau. And this idea is so powerful that when that's what's important to look inside. That when Yaakov's family comes down, what does the Torah say? When Yaakov's family comes down, in Bereshis 46, verse 27. Bereshis 46, verse 27. Bereshis 46, 27.
261.
Bnei Yosef. Ashiyula lo Mitzrayim, nefesh laim. Kol ha-nefesh lebeis Yaakov, ha-boy Mitzrayim o shivim. How does the English translate that?
Joseph's sons are born to him in Egypt, number 2 persons. All the people of Jacob's house looking to Egypt, 70.
Doesn't say that in my book.
Well,
Martel.
That's what it says in this
You
book.
can't trust the English. What do you have, Martel, there?
The sons of Yosef who were born to him in Egypt were another 2 souls. All the souls of the house of Yaakov that came to Egypt were 70.
You know Hebrew better than me. It says all the souls in the Hebrew?
All the souls of the house of Yaakov.
That's what it says in English.
Came to Egypt.
But Hebrew doesn't say that. What does it say in the Hebrew? Kol HaNefesh. Ulpan 103. Bilha. God knows Ulpan 103, right? Should have said Kol HaNefoshot. It could have said Kol Nafshot. So the English is wrong. The English says souls with an S, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
But it's not so. It says Nefesh. Why? Why soul? I'm a soul man, but we're all connected. We're all piece of the rock. And every Jew is intertwined with another Jew. So it's not a brachal of Atala when I keep making Kiddush and Avdallah over and over again. This is what Yehuda taught us. Kol HaNefesh. Not Nefashot. Even though there were 70. Powerful message that Yehuda is teaching us and why he gave his name. Why he gave his name to what? To Am Yisrael. Why he gave his name to Am Yisrael. Nachon? So, the jig is up. Yosef reveals himself to his father. And he says to his father, what does he say to them? In Bereshit 45:3, I am Yosef. Is my father still alive? What do you mean? I am Yosef. Is my father still alive? What kind of question is that?
Page
The
253.
whole song and dance that Yehuda's pleading for Benji's life is it will break the heart of the father. So what kind of question is that? Od of Yichai. You hear, Miriam, my question? So to answer this question, we will what?
Ask another.
Gemara Chagiga makes a strange statement. The most devastating rebuke that Yosef gave to the brothers are these 3 words. Ha'od avichai, is my father still alive? What kind of rebuke? 3 innocent words. Is my father still alive? Well, first of all, he should have said what? Avinu. Our father. He doesn't say that. He says, is my father still alive? What kind of rebuke, Miriam?
That shows.
You hypocrites.
Exactly.
Now you're worried about Papa's health? Where were you for 22 years? All the anguish and agony you put him through? Is it possible that after all you've done to him, can he still be alive? He's my father. You didn't treat him like a father. Devastating rebuke that wanted to crawl into a hole and die. Gemara Chagiga says that. Ha'od avichai. What? You hypocrites. Not Avinu. Because Avinu, you wouldn't put him through such anguish and agony for torture for 22 years. Now you're all of a sudden concerned, Avi, where were you for 22 years? And therefore he says, Avi and not Avinu. And why such devastating rebuke? So he tries to calm them down, and he says what? Don't be sad. Verse 5. You didn't send me here, in verse 8. Bereshit 45:8. Hashem sent me here. What? They have no free will. Bill, what does that mean? You didn't send me here, Hashem, because if I wasn't here, the entire Middle East plus Yaakov's family would perish in a famine. So God had to orchestrate these events to get me down here. They have no free will. Yosef had to go down to Mitzrayim to save the Middle East from famine. But he could have gotten kidnapped by, what's his name? Arafat the rat. Abu Mamza could have kidnapped him or Hamas. He had to go down. Didn't say the brothers have to do it. So yes, God's plan is that Joseph had to come to Egypt to save the Jewish people, to save the whole Middle East. But we're playing chess with the Grand Master. When you play chess with the Grand Master, you ever play chess with the Grand Master? No. You're moving independently, but the Grand Master controls the game. Alpha, you play chess, right? But he's trying to assuage their guilt feelings. They are guilty. Yosef had to come down to Mitzrayim, but no one says they had to kidnap him. God has we have our ways. God has other ways. Could have been Muhammad Ali, right? The brothers did it, they're guilty. We'll talk about that. But yes?
Joseph was prevented from saying anything to his father for 22 years.
Oh, why for 22 years he never said anything?
Because
That's another question.
Was part of the oath, wasn't he part of the oath? Then nobody should
The
say.
brothers made a band. He has to accept their band. Kidnappers make a band that don't. Who said don't ask, don't tell? Who said that? Don't ask. Right. So the Ramban deals with that question. The Ramban deals with that. Why for 22 years he never contacted him? So one answer that Rashi gives in Parshas Vayechi, background music. Didn't Yaakov yell at Yosef, "You loudmouth kid, shut your mouth"? He yelled at him. The Torah says so. Then he sent him on a dangerous mission.
Yeah.
He's thinking, why did my father send me? There's many servants he could have sent. He knows the brothers hate my guts. He yelled at me. He sent me into a trap. He wanted to get rid of me. So all these years, Yosef never contacted his father because he felt that his father set him up. Rashi in Vayechi says this. It's incredible. He was angry that you disrespected my mother. You buried her on the side of the road. Couldn't even take her into Marsa Machpelah. So Yaakov is saying, I know you were upset with me, but believe me, it was not my fault. It was all Hashem's plan. But he had an int for his father all these years, Rashi says. He felt that his father set him up, and therefore that's one explanation of why he never contacted his father. Why send him such a dangerous mission, knowing that the brothers hate him, when there are many servants he could have sent? Could have sent a WhatsApp.
But Yosef was smart.
Right.
He was smart.
Go ahead.
And he was lost. And somebody out of the clear blue sky shows up and says,
Right.
Your brothers are there.
Right.
And that was from Hashem.
Well, he had free will to go back home.
Why was he not angry at the mom?
Right? Why was he not angry? But who sent him on the mission? It was the father. It looks like a setup.
But he was
Like he
so
walked
wrong.
into a trap, and that's one reason why he was upset with his father and he didn't contact him. Okay? Right? It had to be this way, right? It's all like a terrible misunderstanding, dysfunctional family, right? I mean, God works in mysterious ways. Like, God has a plan. But we have free will. But we're playing chess with the grandmaster. We have to remember that. We have to remember that. So, Yosef reveals himself and he says to the brothers in verse 9, 45:9, hurry and go up to my father. Hurry and go up to my father. What do you mean, go up to my father? See that? Rashi makes a comment, Martel. There's an extra book here anybody needs. Sam, it's good to look in if you need the book there. Hurry and go up to my father. What do you mean go up? They're in Cairo now. So Rashi makes a comment that Eretz Yisrael is what? Higher than all other countries. Now, last time you checked the globe, it doesn't look to me that Eretz Yisrael is any higher, right? What does Rashi mean, Martel? Go up, my father. Rashi says Israel is higher than all lands. Now, it doesn't mean physically. Mount Everest is higher. It means what? Spiritually. It means spiritually. But why does Rashi choose to tell me now? We know many places where it says Eretz Yisrael is what? Moving on up, moving on up. Why does Rashi choose to tell me now? Martel, why now? Please hear me well. It got to do with current events. It never fails at the Parsha of the week. Bill always speaks to what? What's going on in Muncie and in Jersey City, this worldwide explosion of anti-Semitism. There's got to be a hint to it in the Parsha. I think Rashi, why does he comment now? Yosef is the Lord and Master of Egypt. The Jews are coming down to Cairo. They live the life of Riley. They got a brother who's what? The second most powerful man in the world. And yet, Eretz Yisrael is what Rashi chooses to say. And Yosef, Eretz Yisrael is still higher than all lands. Despite how good you have it in America. And you don't have it so good now. But even if you did, and you did, Rashi keeps stressing Eretz Yisrael is the most elevated place in the world for Jews. Hello, some Jews are in denial, even though they're not paroi, in denial, get it? In denial. But a lot of Jews in Muncie, they're in denial. Unfortunately. This worldwide explosion of anti-Semitism is God's hand to get the Jews, what? To come home. Because the Vilna Gaon says, it's amazing, they interviewed the Jews in Muncie, and they said, we're waiting for the Mashiach to come. But the Vilna Gaon said, it's the opposite. Mashiach is waiting for them. The Vilna Gaon said over 200 years ago, he died in 1797, that Mashiach can only come when world Jewry comes back to Israel. So instead of they're waiting for Mashiach, the Jews in Muncie, we should tell them, Alfie, that Mashiach is what? Waiting for them. And every Jew that makes Aliyah is bringing the Mashiach one step closer. So said the Vilna Gaon in 1797. So Eretz Yisrael is the most elevated place, despite you have a brother who is the most powerful man in Egypt, number 2, and everything will be rosy for them. The Torah points out, Eretz Yisrael, Gavoa Mekolo Amim. It's still the best place to be for what? For the Jewish people. So the brothers reunite, right? He cries on Benjamin's neck. Genesis 45:14 says he fell on Benjamin's necks.
Plural.
The last time I checked, the human being only has what? One neck.
In English it only says singular.
See that? You can't trust, you got to go to Ulpan 103. It says he fell on Benji's necks. So Rashi said, what's going on? So Rashi says that a neck in the Bible represents what? Bet HaMikdash. Just like the neck connects the head to the body, the Bet HaMikdash connects what? Heaven to earth. So the Beis HaMikdash is called the neck of the world. The neck connects the head to the body. The Beis HaMikdash, Temple Mount, connects the heaven to earth. So he cried on Benjamin's neck because the 2 Beis HaMikdashes that are going to be destroyed, and whose chelik?
Benjamin.
Benjamin's, right? So the question is, why cry now? That ain't going to happen for thousands of years. Now it's what? It's a beautiful time. The brothers reconcile and they reunite. Why does Benjamin and Yosef cry over the 2 Beis HaMikdashes that are not even built yet, that won't be built for centuries? Why are you crying now? Rav Soloveitchik says something amazing. Why was the Beis HaMikdash destroyed? Sinat Chinam. They're crying that their descendants will have learned nothing from their mistake. Look what the Sinat Chinam did to there. It tore the family apart. It almost destroyed the family. And centuries later, the temples are destroyed for the same Sinat Achim. So they're crying, didn't our descendants learn anything from our foolish behavior? Jew against Jew. Didn't they learn anything? That's something to cry about. Because the Beis HaMikdash was destroyed because of Sinat Chinam. And look what it did to Yaakov's family. And we, their descendants, have learned nothing. We keep making the same Sinat Chinam over and over again. That's something to cry about. But anyway, look at Genesis 44:27. Yehuda's giving this, what's the word, soliloquy? Is that the word, soliloquy? Thank you. Good thing you came today. You think he's speaking to King Tut. He doesn't know. Look what he says. 44:27. Martel, you want to read that slowly? This is 44:27.
Then your servant my father said to us, you know that my wife bore me 2 sons.
What? This is Yehuda quoting their father. Their father told them, hey, you guys know that my wife gave birth to what?
2 sons.
Is that true? Didn't he have 4 wives and 12 sons? This what was the bone that was stuck in the throat of the brothers against Yosef. They felt and they knew that in Yaakov's eyes, who was his primary wife? And who were his primary kids? Only Yosef and Benjamin. So that attitude what's the word, gnawed at them? They ate away at them. So Yehuda finally spits it out. Their father told them, you know, as far as I'm concerned, my true wife and kids is Rachel and Yosef and Binyamin. You guys are chopped liver.
Don't count.
It hurts terribly. Bila.
Favoritism.
Doesn't it hurt terribly?
It's called favoritism.
But true love means to accept and respect the will of your parents despite the fact that it upsets you. It's not my will. You and the other brothers felt slighted, and they had a right to feel slighted. And for 22 years it ate away at their gut. Finally Yehuda is able to spit it out. Yes, as far as Papa's concerned, he has one wife and 2 kids. It hurts, but true love means to accept and respect the will of your parents, despite the fact that it's upsetting to you. But what devastating words. They're quoting the father. Yaakov said, you kids know, as far as I'm concerned, my wife, even though he had 3 others, bore me 2 kids. So finally the other brothers were able to what? Dorit, swallow the bitter pill. A lot of times we have to swallow a bitter pill in life, and it ain't easy. And it took them 22 years. But before they're able to swallow it, Daniel, you had this terrible dysfunctional family. When they swallowed the bitter pill, only then were they able to what? Reconcile. What a message for us. What a powerful message for us. Powerful message. Now, let's go. The Torah doesn't tell me any stories, Martel. Terrible family feud. Why build the nation of Israel this way? Couldn't God find another way to build Am Yisrael? Why this terrible hatred and family? Remember the show Family Feud? Family Feud. This is the classic Family Feud. Why did God have to build the nation of Israel this way? Bainish. You know how the polio vaccine works, Bainish? How? How does a polio vaccine work? You inject a little polio into the person, right? And that, builds up immunity, antibodies. Same thing with a smallpox or a flu vaccination. They inject a little flu into you. So the Kabbalists teach that this was God's vaccine. This hatred and this machlokes. God gave us a booster shot, Avi, to strengthen our antibodies of our nation to overcome all the bitter machlokes and all the bitter sin that we had that tore the nation apart. But we're still here, despite the split of the 10 tribes and the 2 tribes, and there was civil war among them and hatred. But we're still here. 3,334 years later, we're still here. How could it be after all the machlokas, the sin of the civil wars, the Yehuda and Ephraim and Yehuda and Yisrael? We're still here because we have the vaccine, Bainish. What's the vaccine? From the get-go, when God was building the nation, he injected this machlokas and hatred into our nation. And this way, despite all of the sin and this machlokas, we're still here because we have the booster shot from the get-go. So we don't self-destruct despite the hatred. To build this wonderful country despite all the machlokas that we have, Ben Gurion told JFK, you can look this up in Google, he told, Mr. President, you are the president of 100 million people, 180 million people, but I am the prime minister of 3.5 million prime ministers.
Heard it was the call.
Whatever. But anyway, so how could we build this wonderful, the start-up nation with all the internal machlokas and hatred and bitterness and Haredi against the secular and all this infighting? We're still here. It's totally irrational. But Avi, the answer is we have the vaccine. The vaccine is the machlokas, Yosef and the brothers. It couldn't be no other way, Moshe. Otherwise we would have torn it apart thousands of years ago. Right? Into sectarian violence. We don't have that because we have the vaccine, Daniel. We have the booster shot of Yosef and the brother, the hatred among them that built up, I think it's called the immune system. That we see how God has everything figured out. They're acting independently and they'll be responsible. But meanwhile, the Grand Master has his plan. That's why we don't self-destruct despite the machlokes, and we're able to build the jewel of the Middle East, the startup nation, the leader in high-tech, low-tech, you name it. Israel is number one. Because we have the vaccine, the booster shot, the immunity, what's it called? Immunization. That's pretty incredible. That's pretty incredible, huh? Now, how do you know wherever the Jews go into exile, God goes with us? Where was God in Auschwitz?
He was there.
He was there. How do we know, Miriam? Because Genesis 46:4 tells me that. Ooh. Where was God in Auschwitz? Alfie, he was in the gas chamber. Genesis 4, that's why it's important to get a book. Genesis 46:4. Now remember, when he's speaking to Yaakov, he calls him Yisrael. Because Yaakov Goldman asked me, when do you say Yaakov, when do you say Yisrael? Yaakov is the private person. But Genesis 46:2 says God spoke to Yisrael. Yisrael doesn't mean just a private, it means the nation of Israel.
It says in night vision.
And look what night visions means, Auschwitz.
Right.
And look what he says in 46:4. Anybody out there? Genesis 46:4. He's speaking not to Yaakov, he's speaking to Yisrael. And what does he say? Anybody? 46:4.
I shall descend with you to Egypt, and it shall also surely bring you out.
I will go down with you to Mitzrayim. Mitzrayim from the word tsar, Meitzar. Concentration camp. Mitzrayim is not just a place. Meitzar. I am going down with you in all of your suffering. I am down with you. And I will also bring you up. It's not the individual, because he says Yisrael, it's the nation. So wherever a Jew suffers, wherever a Jew is, God is there with him. What a verse. There's an incredible verse in Psalm 139:8. If I would say that verse, Martel, they kick me out of yeshiva. Anybody can look up Psalm 139:8. King David says, when I die and I go to heaven, you're there. Right? But if I go to hell, hineka. Psalm 139:8. That's what the Hebrew says. Im esak shemayim shamata. When I die and I go to heaven, you're there. But if I have to go to Sheol, the biblical name for hell is Sheol, hineka. What does hineka mean?
Here you are.
There you are.
If I go up to heavens, you are there. If I make my bed in the depths, you are
No, that means in hell. If I go to hell, he's afraid, because what he did with Bathsheba wasn't nice. He's afraid he's going to hell, but he says, even if I'm in hell, you're there. God never abandons a Jew, not even in hell.
If I ascend to the heavens, you are there. If I make my bed in the grave...
No, it doesn't mean grave. Sheol, kever means grave. You see, you have to know Hebrew. So that's why you have to know Hebrew. In Hebrew, grave means kever. Does it say kever? It says Sheol.
It says...
Sheol means what? Hell. Why Sheol a metaphor for hell? So the Kabbalah explains there's no physical fire. After death, there's no physicality. Sheol from the word she'elah. What's hell? After we die, God will say, Ayeka. Roll the videotape. You did those things. Aren't you ashamed of yourself? That's the hell. There's no physical place. It's the consciousness of the person being one-on-one with God and nowhere to run, nowhere to hide. That's Sheol, She'elah, when God will say, Ayeka. Where are you, my child? Look at you. That's why Gehenna is called She'elah. Well, God will ask, how could you do such a thing? And what are we going to say? So that's what the word Sheol means. So it's based on this verse in 4. Wherever a Jew is, even in hell, God is with him. A parent never abandons a child. Never. King David says in Psalm 27, Ki avi v'imi azavuni v'Hashem yasveni. Was King David put up for adoption, Moshe? He says, my father, my mother have abandoned me. I don't think King David was put up for adoption. What do you mean my father and mother have abandoned me? They died. But you, God, are always with me. King David. The heavenly parent never abandons us for eternity, not even in hell. What a message. Based on this verse 4. Powerful message. Now, the Zohar learns reincarnation from this Parshat. That's important to look inside. We're still on Genesis 46, verse 12. Here the Torah gives the genealogy of all the 70 souls that came down to what? Egypt. It only mentions those children that came down. So there's a strange pasuk in Genesis 46:12. Anybody out there?
The sons of Judah were Onan, Shelah, Perez, and Zerah. Now, and Onan had died in the land of Canaan. And the sons of Perez were Hezron and...
Doesn't say that in my book. You see, you have to know Hebrew. It says, Bnei Yehuda Erva Onan. Erva Onan died in the land of Canaan. So why mention them? Miriam, we're only mentioning the live bodies that came down with Yaakov's family. There's no need to mention Erva Onan. They were long dead. You're only mentioning the people that came down with Yaakov. Erva Onan are long gone. Why mention them? Look at the Hebrew. Erva Onan died in the land of Canaan, and they became the sons of Peretz, Chetzron, V'Chomel. That's what the Hebrew said. Erva Onan died. Why mention them? They're dead. But they became the sons of Peretz. Reincarnated and Chetzron, V'Chomel did come down on wagon train. So Chetzron, V'Chomel, alias what? Erva Onan. Otherwise, there's no reason, Moshe, to mention them.
This is the greatest proof of reincarnation.
Isn't that? There's many, but this is one of many proofs. If you know Hebrew, it's amazing. Erva Onan died, and they became the sons of Peretz, who did go down to what? To Egypt. And therefore, they're mentioned. So you learn from here reincarnation, and you also see from here that the reincarnated souls travel in families. So Ramban says, therefore, you name a child after the deceased grandparent, because chances are that that baby is what? His dead grandfather, his dead grandmother, recycled. You learn from here that neshamas travel in families.
Rabbi.
What business is God in, Billah?
Soul recycling.
Soul repair business.
He's a shoe
Or a recycling business. Soul repair.
This chumash was written by Jews, the Austro, and yet
Yeah?
there's nothing saying that over here.
Okay, then I'd be unemployed.
Well, why is this?
I don't know.
I don't want to make it too deep.
I don't know.
This is
I don't know.
people to read.
But it should be more concise.
Right.
It's pretty good.
Yeah.
This rule's pretty good compared to
Mm-hmm.
It's not good. It's pretty good.
But anyway,
This says that they were.
so Yosef asked before, why didn't Yosef contact his father? Mepharshim say he saw as a setup. His father yelled at him, sent him away. Looks like a real setup, right? Why send him when there are many servants? And therefore he didn't contact him all the years. But anyway, they reconcile. And Yosef, Bereshis 46:29, Yosef harnessed his chariot and he goes to meet his father. See that? 46:29. So why is that important, Martel? Maybe he took a Nesher taxi service. Why tell me that he harnessed his chariot to see his father? Rashi wonders about that. What? Beautiful. To teach, he loved his father. He saw that he was wrong. He suspected his father wrongly. He wants to make it up. So kibbut aim, he could have sent a servant to call a taxi, but he himself wanted to what? Harness the chariot to do the mitzvah of what? Of kibbut av. So we see lefum tzara agra. According to the pain is the gain. The more effort you put into a mitzvah, the greater is the reward. So by harnessing the chariot himself, the Torah is teaching you the more effort you put into honoring your parents, the greater is what? The reward. So Yosef appears to his father, verse 29, and he cries a lot, and he kisses him, he cries a lot. Rashi points out, who did the crying and the kissing? Yosef. But Yaakov didn't cry and didn't kiss him. Why? He was busy reading the Shema. That's what Rashi says. Now Miriam, Yosef was an Orthodox Jew. If it was time to read the Shema, why wasn't Yosef reading the Shema? And wait a minute, and Yaakov, you got to watch up, your son is coming to visit you after 22 years. Why couldn't you read the Shema before? Your son is coming, read the Shema before. Was it time to read the Shema or not? If it was, why wasn't Yosef reading the Shema? So the morale points out that it wasn't time to read the Shema. But when Yaakov laid eyes on Yosef after 22 years, it welled up inside the soul such tremendous love. He knew, I'll never love this way again. I knew, I'll never love this way again. So he said, that love that he felt for brother Joe, he channeled it to Abbas Hashem. That's Yaakov Avinu, says the morale. He'll never love this way again. So instead of giving that love to the beloved son, he channeled it, Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. That's Yaakov Avinu. All for the boss. Who wrote that book? All for the boss, right? Yeah. Now, is there a fate worse than death? Is there a fate worse than death? Look at verse 30. Look at, Genesis 46:30. Yisrael says to Yosef, I will die once. That's what the Hebrew says. I don't know what the English says. Genesis 46:30.
Now I can die after having seen.
Now I can die?
Because you were still.
No, it doesn't say achshav. What are you changing the meaning? Come on, don't play with the text. It says amuta hapam. Miri, remember those bus tickets before there was a chafshi, there was punch cards. You got on the bus, you said pam, he asked you pam pamayim. Pam pamayim. The bus driver knows Hebrew. God knows Hebrew too, right? Yaakov knows Hebrew. He said, now I will die only once. What do you mean? Omusa hapam. I will die only once. What do you mean I'll die only once? Who dies more than once? So Rashi said, he thought he's going to die twice. Ba'olam hazeh and olam haba. Because he sent Yosef to his death, he felt responsible. Now I see your face. Now I see your face, that you're still alive, not just physically, but you're alive what? Spiritually? Now I will die only once in the physical world. But I will not die in Olam Haba. I will not die in Olam Haba. So now I'll die only once. That's pretty amazing. Now, last week's Parshat, Miketz. Let's go back there. It's the maftir. Genesis 44. Genesis 44:13. But before we do that, we go back to the beginning of Miketz. Genesis 41:1. Vahi Miketz. It was at the end. Genesis 41:1. Miketz means the end, says Onkelos and Rashi. Miketz means the end. But if you look at Genesis 41:7, it says Vayikatz, which is the same root that Miketz. Vayikatz means to wake up, and the same root Miketz. Ketz means the end. So how could one word in the Hebrew have two opposite meaning? Does it mean the end, or does it mean to awake? Says the Zohar, when life on this world is at an end, you wake up on the other side. So therefore, Miketz and Vayikatz is the same shoresh. When you reach the end of the rope here, the end of the line, Misof, you wake up on the other side. So the same word for end and awake in Hebrew is the same shoresh, Ketz. And therefore, the non-Jews, the funeral they call awake. That bizarre? Non-Jews call a funeral awake. It makes no sense, but it does make a sense. Because the Zohar says in this verse, when you reach the end of physical life, you awaken on the other side. Pretty amazing. But the Parsha ends on a very tragic note. Bereshis 44:13. Binyamin is set up. They found the silver cup there. Bereshis 44:13. The brothers tear their clothes in mourning. It looks like it's all over. And the Torah stops right there and cuts off Vayigash. Why does the Torah not go right through, Moshe? Why leave us in suspense, a cliffhanger for a whole week?
So you'll come back next week?
To come back next week?
That's why.
Right? Why not connect? Hey, everything is hunky-dory. Ani Yosef. It's all a game. Why leave me on such a sour, cliffhanging, suspenseful note? Well, darkness and tragedy, the brothers are trapped. They tear their clothes to teach us that although whatever God does is gamzu l'tova, but you have to wait till next week or the next world to see the good hidden in the ra. That's the message. Everyone has darkness and service in life. But you have to know that's only the container, that's only the wrapper that contains what?
Good.
Hidden good. How do we know, Billo? We have the roadmap. The brothers have darkness and evil. They're trapped, no way out. And then next week, Ani Yosef. That's the roadmap for life. In all tragedy, there's a hidden good. Sometimes you don't see it next week, Avi, like we do here. Sometimes you see it in the next world, but you got to know it's coming. All tragedy in life is only the, what's the word, foil? Or the container that contains salvation. How do we know, Moshe? We got the roadmap. Right? I think it's called a cliffhanger in English, or stay tuned, right? If you have to come back next week. Pretty amazing, right? You have to come back next week.
Because you daven every day. You get the coming attraction.
Yeah. Pretty interesting, right? Now, if you look at the end of the Parsha, the Medrash makes a very shocking comment.
But the end of Vayigash.
The end of Vayigash, Genesis 47. Genesis 47. Verse 22. Verse 21. Genesis 47, verse 21. We're learning ancient Egyptian history. Why should I care? Genesis 47:21. Yosef is engaged in transferring the populations from Thebes to Memphis, from Alexandria to Cairo. What's it called? Transferring a population from city to city. How do I say that in English? You have that in English?
That's what it says. As for the nation, he resettled it by cities, and from one end of Egypt's borders to the other.
Rashi, who cares? Torah's GPS, who cares? Why tell me this? So Rashi said, the brothers are coming down to Egypt. They are in Egypt. They might be mocked. You're gringo, you're aliens, greenhorns. He made them all aliens. To remove the stigma that the brothers shouldn't be mocked, that they're aliens, he made the entire Egyptian population aliens, says Rashi. How sensitive he was to his brothers. They shouldn't feel that they're what? What do you say, greenhorns? So he made them all greenhorns. That's what Rashi says. They shouldn't have the cherpa, the humiliation, to call them golim. He made them all aliens. How sensitive Yosef was to his brothers. That's why the Torah points it out. And then the Torah makes a strange statement. Verse 22, Martel. Verse 22. 47:22. Go ahead. In English.
The land of the priests he did not buy, because the priests had an allotment from Pharaoh. They ate the allotment that Pharaoh gave them, and therefore they did not sell their land.
So he didn't disturb the Kohanim. Who cares? He didn't bother them. They could stay where they are. They can own their own land. Moshe, why should I care? Read this in the Egyptian times, 3,300 years ago. Why did he not chepa? How do you say chepa in English? Start up with the Kohanim. Why? And why tell me about it? Says the Medrash something amazing. Isn't it strange that Yosef, after his master's wife accused him of rape, why was he not made a head shorter?
Yeah, why not?
Why didn't Potiphar make him a head shorter? You listening? You're accusing. The master's wife said, this dirty Jew tried to rape me. Kill him on the spot. So the Medrash says that the Komrim, these priests, they saved Yosef's life. They said, we know your wife is a tzatzkala. We know she's run around Sue. The priest saved Yosef's life, says the Medrash. Hakora satoiv bila. He owed the priests. Otherwise he'd be dead. So therefore he did them a toiva. He left them alone. They saved his life. That's another explanation. But Hakora satoiv achi choshuv, even to a pagan priest who does you a favor, you owe them. And Rabbeinu Bechai in the Sefer Chinuch Seidorit, that the entire Jewish religion stands on which pillar? Hakora tatov. Expressing gratitude and appreciation, and therefore the Torah goes out of its way to point out that he did not mess with the Kohanim because he owed them his life, Brother Joe did. So he turned the entire Egyptian population into serfs. Not smurfs, I said serfs. Look at the maftir, David. Genesis 47:25 maftir. Anybody?
And they said, you have saved our
Who's
lives.
they? The Egyptian population.
You have saved our lives when we find favor in your eyes, my Lord, and we will be serfs to Pharaoh.
Avodim. It doesn't say serf, it says avodim. Look at the... Now keep this in mind, Miriam. The Medrash makes a very, very frightening comment. We say by the Seder, Avodim hayinu leparo b'Mitzrayim. Payback time. Ooh-wee, ooh-wee. Look at the Hebrew, Martel. Hayinu avodim leparoi. Joseph made the Egyptians avodim leparoi, so 210 years later, we became avodim leparoi. Beidish, you getting this? So the Medrash Rabbah says, the Mitzrim paid us back. Joseph made them avodim leparoi. That's what the text says. So avodim hayinu leparoi b'Mitzrayim. What goes around comes around. It might take 200 years, but pretty amazing, huh? So Joseph felt he had to do what he did, but whatever we do in life, even though we feel we have to do it, has consequences. Has consequences. And look at the words, they jump out at you. Look at the maftir, Martel. Hayinu avodim. Rearrange the words. Avodim hayinu. Look at the maftir says, Yehuda. The last three words in the maftir. Chafei. Hayinu avodim leparoi. What do you say in Pesach night? The same words. Yosef, the same words. Havodim hayinu leparoi. And here it's hayinu avodim leparoi. Kawinki dinky. Same words.
Never a coincidence.
It's just incredible. I mean, are you getting this, Elisheva? Hayinu avodim lepara, avodim hayinu lepara, same exact words. Pretty amazing. Let's look at the Haftorah. Amazing Haftorah, where the Jewish people will reconcile and reunite.
1144.
Ezekiel 37, just like Yosef and the brothers reunited, so at the end of time, the Jewish people, the Haredim and not the Haredim and the Fry and everything, the 10 tribes and the 2 tribes, we will all what? Reunited, and it feels so good.
This is Shabbos reconciliation.
That's right. Look at this beautiful Haftorah. Look at this beautiful Haftorah. God tells the prophet Yecheskel, look at verse 21. It's just incredible. It's happening today. I mean, you don't need no Bible codes. Yecheskel said this 2,500 years ago. Now, there were millions of prophets. How come only 48 and 7 are written down? Because those millions spoke for their time. Not interesting me. But Yecheskel and the other Nevi'im who are written in the Bible speaking to today, look what it says. Anybody want to take a crack at verse 21?
And speak to them, thus says...
Who's them? Us.
Thus says my Lord Hashem Elohim, behold, I take the children of Israel from among the nations to which they went, and I shall gather them from Rome, and I shall bring them to their soil.
I come from Brooklyn. My wife comes from Iran. Isn't that Kibbutz Goliath? I'm from Brooklyn. She's from Isfahan, where they're building the bomb. I mean, Jews are coming back from Brooklyn, Iran, from where? The B'nai Menashe from India. It's happening in front of our eyes. Right? God says, Lokeach. What does Lokeach mean? Who knows Hebrew? Hoveh. Now. It's now. Lokeach. Mibein Agoyim. And I will bring them back to their land. And what does verse 22 say?
I shall make them into a single nation in the land upon Israel's hills, and a single king shall be for them all as a king, and they shall no longer be two nations, no longer divided into two kingdoms.
No longer the kingdom of Yehuda and the kingdom of Ephraim, right? Just like Joseph and the brothers came together, the 10 tribes and the 2 tribes will what? Come together right now. Now look at verse 24, Martel. You have verse 24? Oh, you don't have the Haftorah, Slicha.
No, I have Haftorah, but I don't have it numbered by...
Oh.
They don't, in that book, they don't number it.
Oh.
24.
Va'avdi David.
My servant David.
And my servant David will be king over them, and all of them will have one shepherd, and they will go in my laws and keep my statutes and do them.
All the Jews will become Haredi. What about Victor Lieberman going to do? Are you getting this? It says all the Jews will observe all the laws of the Torah. Even Yisrael Be'eteinu. What about Meretz? Look what it says over here. Now the Radak has a problem with this verse. When Yecheskel said that, King David was dead for about 500 years. So how could a dead guy be a king? It says, Va'avdi David melech aleim. My servant David will be king over them. But when Yecheskel said that David was dead for centuries. So Radak gives 2 explanations. One, it means Ben David,
Son of David.
a descendant of David, or David himself, Tchiat HaMesim. Here is Moshe. Radak says, his second shot, that this is one of the proofs in the Bible of Tchiat HaMesim, because a dead guy can't be a king. And when Yecheskel said that, King David was dead for 5 centuries, and now he's been dead for 3,000 years. So this is a symbol of Tchiat HaMesim. When Mashiach comes, David will be resurrected. He'll Melech HaMashiach. In fact, the Oisios Adam, Billa, Adam. The Aleph stands for what?
Adam.
David, Mashiach. It's one neshama. Adam, Aleph, Dalid, Mem. Alfie. God's in the recycling business. Adam became David, and David is going to be the Mashiach. It's the same neshama recycled. So Va'avdi David melech aleihem. Look at verse Chaf Hey. V'yoshval oretz.
They will dwell in the land that I gave to my servant Jacob, within which your forefathers dwelt, and they shall dwell upon it, they, their children's children forever, and my servant David will be a prince for them forever.
Even though he's been dead for centuries. This time we're back for good. Unlike the first 2 times we got kicked out, Alfie. But now the prophet says we're back la'olam, forever. Keeps repeating. Verse 26, olam la'olam. V'yodu hagoyim. The nations will realize that I am Hashem who sanctifies Israel, when my temple will be amongst them
Forever.
la'olam. Unlike the first 2 temples which were destroyed, the 3rd temple is forever. He keeps repeating the word la'olam 5 times. Let's count. 5 times he keeps repeating the word olam, the prophet does. Where's the first time? He says the word olam. Look at verse 25. U'bnei b'neihem ad olam. And then he says again, Va'avdi David nasi lehem la'olam. Twice in verse 25. In verse 26, you have it olam, olam. 3 and 4. And then in verse 28, you have it again, what? 5 times he keeps saying that the 3rd temple will be what? Forever. Why 5 times? How many books of the Torah are there, Bila? 5. So just like the Torah is forever, the 3rd temple will be what? Forever. What a prophecy. And it's unfolding in front of all of our eyes. Just incredible. All the high tech and all the marvelous invention that Israel is inventing, it's to pave the way for the Melech HaMashiach. It's all God's plan. Putting all the pieces of the puzzle in place to get ready. Therefore, Mashiach is called Tzemach. Tzemach means what? A sprout. It's step by step. It's a process. Tzemach. We're building, leading up to the climax. Step by step. The Jews, not in Israel, how could they? We're living on the climax of world history. How could they miss the boat, Martel? What are they doing there in Shmutz Laaretz? What? God is sending so many signals. You got to be blind not to see the Yad Hashem. This totally irrational, illogical explosion of anti-Semitism all over the world. In every country. Is it normal? It's God's hand to force the Yidden to what? Come home, because the Vilna Gaon says Mashiach cannot come until the Yidden come home. So God knows his kinderlach, they're not going to come home unless what? They're squeezed. Otherwise it makes no sense, this worldwide explosion of anti-Semitism at the same time. Because it's coming to the end game. God tells Isaiah, Be'ito achisheno. In its time I will hasten it. Says the Zohar. What does that mean? The Zohar says right before Mashiach comes, God tells Isaiah, I will speed up time. Be'ita achishena. I will hasten and speed up time. So since Mashiach is coming very soon, therefore everyone you speak to has this amazing sensation of what? Speeding up time. Fast forward. It's Friday again. It was just Thursday. Now it's Thursday again. How did the Zohar know this 2,000 years ago, what Isaiah meant 2,800 years ago? Time is literally flying because we're getting close to the end game. B'ito achishena, God says.
For more of Rabbi Sprecher's teachings, visit rabbisprecher.com.